automotive festivals, cars and coffees, or anything else relating to an internal combustion engine, then this is a site for you. Check it out online or on your phone at flacarshows.com.
You may be owed some money. After 911 and 411, call 541. That's 727-541-1741. Call Gulfstream Motorsports for a diminished value report. Due to my 28 years experience in the auto salvage business, I'm very good with wrecks. So if your car's been involved in a wreck, call me for a diminished value report. Call 727-541-1741. You may be owed some money for the lost value of your repaired vehicle. And visit us at GulfstreamMotorsports.com.
They call him Dudley Do-Right, but that's not his real name. The toughest highway cop from California to Maine. He hides back in the bushes with the latest radar. Take your picture, then he'll catch you in his modified car. His heart's hard as concrete, and his blood is ice cold. He's Dudley Do-Right of the Highway Patrol. He'll pull up behind you in that fast modified car and walk up to you, put both thumbs over that black hand-tuned leather pistol belt and look down at you from behind them cool hand-looped men with no eyes, sunglasses, and say, "Clock G Blackguard 57 and half miles higher." Yeah, they guess you know you in a heap of trouble, don't you, boy? He rides a big old Harley, got a Mustang GT, and a Bell helicopter hidden in the pine trees. If he catches you for speeding, it's 10 years to life. And if you protest, he takes your firstborn child, your house, and your wife. Well, let me see your license there, boy. You do have a license, don't you, boy? You want to just take it out of that there wallet from me, boy? Yeah. Well, look at here. What have we here? I was down in the Southland, late for a show. Had to pedal to the metal and a long way to go. Talking on the CB, had my fuzzbuster on. There was not a soul in sight, so I kept moving along. Then I looked in my mirror, and Lord bless my soul, that was Dudley Do-Right of the Highway Patrol. Well, look at what we got here. Mr. Raymond Stevenson. Oh, Ahab the Arab his own self. You want an autograph? Huh? Not exactly, son. My wife, Ethel, you do remember Ethel, don't you, boy? That shameless husband. Yeah, she was saying to me the other night, she said, "Bubba," that's right, name's Bubba, and I just happen to be the lustrous potentate of this here local shrine temple. She said, "Bubba, why you suppose it is that Raymond Stevenson treats us so ugly on all his phonograph records?" And I said, "I don't know." And I turned to my brother, Clyde, and his wife, Sister Bertha, and they say they didn't know neither. About that time, my nephew, Harv Newland, come in. I said, "Harv, have you heard that Raymond Stevenson's latest meanness on the phonograph record?" He looked up at me and said, "Yeah, I did." And Uncle Bubba, how you suppose it is that Raymond Stevenson knew I had a steeple on my barber shop? Well, I guess you just better come along with me, boy. Old Deputy Carr has got a bone or two. He'd like to pick with you his own self. Guess everything ain't so dad burn beautiful right now, is it, huh? Really call him Dudley Do-Right, but that's not his real name. The toughest highway cop from California to Maine. He hides back in the bushes with the latest radar. He'll take your picture, then he'll catch you in his modified car. His heart's hard as concrete, and his blood is ice cold. He's Dudley Do-Right of the Highway Patrol.
It's really him.
All things come to ye who wait.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hi, folks, this is the Big Swag, and you're listening to my main man, Robert, on Nostalgic Radio and Cars. And if you turn off the radio while he's on, I swear I'll come to your house, steal all your food, and take your animals. You better listen to him or I'll come find you.
Okay, listeners, welcome. You're tuned into Nostalgic Radio and Cars, and I'm your show host, Robert. Run your computers and Google TAN Talk 1340.com, and you can see us live here in the studios in downtown Clearwater. Don't forget to check out our website, GulfstreamMotorsports.com, where you can find out all about us. And if you missed any of our past 616, 17 some odd shows, you can go to nostalgicradioandcars.com and you can hear them all. Good afternoon, Bobby.
Hello. I was just going to confirm that for you here in a second.
Okay. Well, I'm close. I know that. Because we've been at this for 12 years. So it should be at least 12 times 50.
619.
619. Okay. Tonight, 619?
Well, tonight will be 620.
Tonight will be 620. Okay. Anyway, all right. We got an exciting show for you this evening. We have a very, 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 very special guest. Now, there was a clue. At the beginning of the show.
About a 4-minute long clue.
So, and it wasn't Dudley Do-Right. But in fact, I think there was a cartoon. No, was it Dastardly Dan? I don't remember. There was a Dudley Do-Right. Yeah, the Canadian Mountie. And I can't think of the little girl's name that was in there. They used to always get tied to the railroad track by, can't remember his name either. It might have been Dastardly. I'm not sure. Anyway, so yeah, we have a very special guest. Okay, so I'm going to tell some stories.
Well, but first.
Go ahead.
Unravel our. I have to make a little of this noise.
Oh yeah,
here,
yeah. Well, we have a little announcement.
The Shack is back.
The Shack is back. Yeah, as in the Rib Shack barbecue, and they have now relocated from sunny downtown Largo on West Bay Drive, 426. Now they're over on Clearwater. No, they're on Cleveland Street.
1300.
Drew Street.
Let me go get the poster. Hang on.
Go get the poster. We'll straighten you out on that. But anyway, I happened to be driving by. I was just diddy-bopping by on my way to the studio. And I was miles down the road, and I caught this wonderful scent of barbecue food. So I knew I was heading in the right direction.
And you just happened to be in the neighborhood of 1850 Drew Street.
That's it, 1850 Drew Street. And Robert was out there with his big barbecue, his tag-along barbecue, and he had his little tent there. And this was at almost 6 o'clock when I came whipping by there, but a little after 6 actually. And there was a line, and he was running on a barbecue. So they're usually there. They're opening up, they're relocating, but they're doing a Saturday, Sunday thing all day outside. But now they're experimenting with Tuesdays to see how that works. Well, evidently it worked really, really well because they were packed and they had so much business that they ran out of food. That's a good sign when you run out of food.
That's a very good sign. So you will catch the Nostalgic Radio and Cars van at 1850 Drew Street every single Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, now
and we expect the listeners to be there too.
Yes, and be sure and mention Nostalgic Radio and Cars, okay? Because you might get a free drink.
And then we'll be ready to. We may look into a live remote when they open.
Yes.
When they get in the air
that's on Tuesdays. Yeah, that's right. That works out beautifully.
Or you'll have to report live there or something.
Okay. So,
but yes, still they're using a catering phone number right now, 727-400-9100. I believe that's Corey's. So that's the number to call them. But 1850 Drew Street. The smoker sits out there all week, so you know you're in the right place, whether you're there or not.
Yes, and if you're eastbound, it's on your left side. If you're westbound, it's on your right side.
Between Keene and Hercules. Absolutely. Okay, now, story time. So our guest tonight is a well-known, legendary musician / songwriter / comedian. And he did a song back in the... And I won't go in all the history, but one in particular was we were in high school, and this is 1973, 74. And my buddy Rock, if Rock's listening, is from Owensboro, Kentucky. Okay, now I'm from out west. Okay, so you know how we have our California drawl? No, I'm just kidding. We talk kind of like we do everywhere. But in the South, and I love the South, don't get me wrong, I really do. They got the Southern drawl. And I really like that. I think it's cool. And especially, you know, when women have it, because it's just cute. But at any rate, so in this song, the song came out in 1970, late 74. I'm going to say 74 probably. It was called The Streak. And it's an interesting song, but in that there's like a repetitive piece of dialogue in there where he goes, "Yeah, I did." Well, Rock was from Owensboro, Kentucky, and he has a very, very southern drawl, Kentucky drawl, and he used to jack with me on that one all the time. Yeah, I did. So now here it is. This is 1974, and here we are, almost 50 some odd years later, close to that, and I never got it out of my head. Yeah, I did. I didn't. But anyway, so our guest will be on a little bit. We'll talk about that. But let me go ahead and refresh you guys on what I did over the weekend. Meekum, we had John Kramer on from last week. And, of course, we also had Harry Hurst on. And Harry and I talked a little bit after the show. And he's got some fascinating stuff, some photography of some of the great races back in the day. And, yes, the Glory Days of Racing. That's his website. Or his Facebook page. And really, those of us that are, and the name of this show is Nostalgic Radio and Cars, and it's Nostalgic Radio and Cars for a reason.
Nostalgic cars and radios, as some people say.
Yeah, because we're nostalgic. I mean, I used to be nostalgic auto because I was in the wrecking yard business, and I had salvage cars and mostly vintage. But nonetheless, so it's nostalgic radio and car, and it's kind of like one guy said, well, you kind of like that old timey radio thing. And said, yeah. We need to find that. Remember that one clip from
old timey radio?
Yeah. Talking a can. We haven't done that in a long time. Anyway, so I went to Meekum's. Or no, so Harry and I were talking, and he's got, and I've kind of shared some of his photography on there, which is pretty cool. But back to Meekum. So I went to Meekum. And one of the first cars I saw when I walked in, it was a 1959 Chevrolet Impala. Now, I remember that car at an auction a few years ago, and it pushed maybe $150 or something like that. But I will say the guy that owns this car, who I happen to know, it is an outstanding, probably a absolute flawless restoration. That car hammered over $300,000. Over $300,000 for a 59 Chevy Impala. Now, I had a 348. Automatic, had some nice options, beautiful car. I mean, absolutely. I mean, I defy you to find a flaw with that car. That was perfect. But some of the cars over there at Meekum's were bringing absolutely phenomenal numbers. In fact, I was talking to some of the dealers, and they were saying, we brought a lot of cars over here, and the cars that we thought wouldn't bring a lot of money brought ridiculous money. The cars that we thought would bring a lot of money, some did, some didn't. But we bought a lot of cars, and we sold a few cars. So for the most part, everybody was pretty happy. And as the saying goes, and the bid goes on, a lot of these cars, if they don't necessarily hammer on the block, there's what they call, after post sales. And so you can always go in there, and a lot of times you can cut a deal, because generally when people take a car to an auction, it's there to sell. So it's not like they really want to come home with it, because they have a lot of expense involved in it. They may have already bought something and they don't have a place to put it anymore. So very often you get a really, really, really good deal. And so Meekum's, I thought, and this was in the convention center in Orlando. Was it North
Concourse of the Orange County Convention Center?
Yeah, and that's where they used to have the PRI show, the performance racing industry. And they used up every bit of it. Now, they had 1,500 cars, and they still had a little bit of room, but I would wager to say that if they moved a few walls, they could have 3,000 cars in there easy. And the beauty of it was easy to get to, right off the interstate. Parking was very, very good, and air conditioning inside, and everything was clean.
Second largest convention center in the United States.
After Las Vegas,
probably
right?
Neck and neck, I believe, number one award-winning.
Really?
In the United States.
Well, I'll tell you what, it was a fantastic job. And so my hat's off to the guys at Meekum's, and I hope nothing wrong with Kissimmee out there, but you are out a ways, and you do have the tents, and sometimes that can be an issue, particularly weather permitting, but this was done very, very nicely. So
sunny and 75 all the time.
All the time, yep, and the same breeze. And so at any rate, all right, so that was that. Bobby, why don't you go ahead and fire up, I don't know. Well,
I'm going to talk for a few. You need to talk.
I need to talk another couple minutes. Okay. So, the other thing I'm working on too is I'm working on a potential appraisal, which I do, and buy and sell some cars and parts and a few things like that. But I'm working on a very interesting car right now, or not car, vehicle. And I don't know if I mentioned it last week or not, or the week before, but in Tampa, back at the turn of the century, a family from Italia from Italy moved over here, and they were known as, I believe, the Flying Zucchinis. Okay, now my good friend IG is a distant cousin. Well, no, he's a next to kin cousin, kind of next to kin. Yeah, I did. Okay. Anyway, I ain't gonna get that out of my head tonight. Yeah,
You're
I
just
did.
an old country boy.
Anyway, did you find that talking to Can?
No,
Still looking.
I have to.
Okay. Well,
I want the original, the long one.
Okay.
The whole scene.
The whole scene. All right. With the devil and everything. Anyway, damn, my mind just went blank. What was I talking about now?
Zucchinis.
Oh, they're flying
things
zucchinis. Okay,
and-
so they were basically circus, trapeze artists and things. And one of the things that the family, I'm going to say probably invented was, everybody remembers the days when people would shoot out of cannons and stuff. Okay, well, they would get in these cannons and they would go and they'd fly over buildings. Now, I'm going to be doing the appraisal on probably one of those vehicles, and this particular one happens to be the cannon that shot 2 people out of there. Now, I think I talked a little bit about this before, but I not so sure, and I consider myself kind of an outdoorsy type kind of guy. I have my share of, falls, spills, fights, all that good stuff. We all do when we're kids, and but and riding dirt bikes and falling off dirt bikes, climbing trees, falling off hills, all that kind of stuff. Did all that stuff. Martial arts, so I kind of know how to fall and take a punch here and there and stuff. But I'm not sure, and driven fast cars, really, really fast cars on racetracks, but I'm not sure I would stuff myself in a cannon where I would basically be a human cannonball. The thing is that they shoot them out, and I'm not sure how many, a couple 100 yards, maybe 100 yards, 150, 200 yards, something like that, and then you got to fly in this little net. That's kind of, I'm not so sure about that. But it's all calibrated and they rarely ever had any incidents, but you had 2 people in there. So I'm not going to reveal the secret, but basically there's 2 plungers in there and they shoot off and then there's this little explosion, but they make a show out of it. Okay. Cause it's a show like circuses. Circuses are a show, kind of like, and it's all entertainment. And it's kind of like a magician. A magician is, it's sleight of the hand. It's optic illusion. I guess that's the word for it. Perceived illusion, perceived whatever the heck you saw. But anyway, so but this is kind of an interesting vehicle. It's a 1940-41 white semi. Okay, that's the manufacturer. White made trucks back in the day. Just like God, I can't even think. My mind just, this is the bad thing when you get older and your mind just starts slipping. And Mac, that was the one that was well known back in the day. And Mack trucks, you had Diamond Rio, you had Freightliner, obviously Ford made trucks, GMC made trucks. Everybody made trucks back in the day. International was around back in those days, but this is a white. Okay, and so it's interesting, and the thing that was amazing is the family resided in Tampa, basically off Swan in the Hyde Park area. And one of the buildings is still there where these trucks were made. And the thing that amazed me was that all the equipment, the welding equipment, some of the original welding equipment, I'm not talking about the stuff that was put together in the 60s and 70s, but I'm talking the 30s, 40s stuff. Okay. And all the entire pulley system of all the levers and equipment and machinery and presses and shears and all this stuff that operated this stuff. I mean, if you go back and look at some turn of the century industrial equipment, you see it's all run by pulleys and belts and pulleys and motors and all that kind of stuff, mostly electric motors. And that's all intact in this particular building. The building's about just under 2,000 square feet. It's probably about 16 feet high. It's solid block, or brick actually. And it's kind of like a story and a half. But that particular truck was in there, so I had a chance to check it out, and it's pretty amazing. I'm going to write the story on it, the narrative, and right now, currently, that truck is on display at a circus museum in Gibsonton, which is where I'm going to go take a look at it. So I will put some pictures and some information on that vehicle on my Facebook page here shortly. But I think right now, we're getting ready to get our guest on the phone, so Bobby's going to fire.
And if it makes it any better, Alan called and said it's only 150 feet out of the cannon. So, just in case
I don't
that's
know,
comforting.
but some of the people shot over Ferris wheels and a whole slew of other rolling stock. So I'm not sure. I mean, what the capability of. I'm sure they could preset that thing, but on an average, well, yeah,
so.
Obviously in a circus, because you have a circuit tent and it's only so big, so some circumference wise,
correct.
So they can't. So 150 feet. Alan, you stand correct. I mean, you are probably correct, and I stand corrected.
And we have.
Here we go again. I'm going to get corrected again. All right, so we got to get our guest on the line because we have to call him at a certain time, and I don't want to miss out on this opportunity. So you are tuned into Nostalgic Radio and Cars. Are we going to play the streak, Bobby? Here is that very song. Yeah, I did.
Across the nation on the scene at the supermarket. There seems to have been some disturbance here. Pardon me, sir. Did you see what happened?
Yeah, I did. I was standing over there by the tomatoes, and here he comes, running through the pole beans, through the fruits and vegetables, naked as a jaybird. And I hollered over to Ethel. I said, "Don't look, Ethel!" And it's too late. She'd already been in the scenes.
Here he comes.
Boogie that, boogie that.
There he goes.
Boogie that, boogie that.
And he ain't wearing no clothes.
Well, yes, they call him the street.
Look at that.
Fastest thing on 2 feet.
Look at that.
He's just as proud as he can be. His anatomy, he gonna give us a peek. Well, yes, they call him the street.
Look at that.
He likes to show off his physique.
Look at that.
If there's an audience to be found, he'll be streaking it round, inviting public critique.
This is your Action News reporter once again, and we're here at the gas station. Pardon me, sir, did you see what happened?
Yeah, I did. I was just in here getting my tires checked. He just appeared out of the traffic. Come streaking around the grease right there. Didn't have nothing on but a smile. I looked in there and Ethel was getting her cold drink. I hollered, "Don't look, Ethel!" It's too late. She'd already been mooned. Flashed her right there in front of the shopping center.
He ain't rude.
Look at it, look at it.
He ain't rude.
Look at it, look at it.
He's just in the mood to ride in the news.
Well, yes, they call him the street.
Look at that.
He likes to turn the other cheek.
Look at that.
He's always making the news, wearing just his tennis shoes. Guess you could call him unique.
Once again, your Action News reporter in the booth at the gym covering the disturbance at the basketball playoff. Pardon me, sir, did you see what happened?
Yeah, I did. Hey, Tom, I was just going down there to get Ethel a snow cone. Here he come, right out of the cheap seats, dribbling, right down the middle of the court. Didn't have on nothing but a head. Made a hook shot and got out through the concession stand. I hollered up at Ethel. I said, "Don't look, Ethel!" It was too late. She'd already got a free shot. Round step. Right there in front of the hole.
Well, yes, they call him the street.
Here he comes again.
Who's that with the same on 2 feet?
Ethel! Is that you,
He's
Ethel?
just as proud as he can be.
What do you think you're
His
doing?
anatomy, he gonna give us
You
a peek.
get your cold dog!
Well, yes, they call him the street.
Hello, this is the annoying Jay Leno, and you're listening to Nostalgic Radio and Cars.
Okay, we're back, and you're tuned into Nostalgic Radio and Cars. Thanks, Jay. I appreciate that. It's time to introduce our special guest for the evening. I'm just so thrilled. This gentleman is legendary in the music world, legendary songwriter, legendary comedian. He's also a Country Music Hall of Fame recipient and a multi-Grammy Award winning. I'm delighted to welcome to the show, really delighted to welcome to the show, Ray Stevens. Ray, how are you this evening?
I'm just fantastic, but I'm not worried. So.
You're not worried. Okay. Yeah, I played the streak, and I think earlier today I told you a little bit about my little experience with that song, and I just love that song. I think it's cool. Now, how do you feel when you hear that song, knowing that was probably one of your top selling records, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, it was. It's 1974, and I think it's around 5 million.
5 million records. That's a lot. That's a lot of records.
Yeah,
now,
back in 74, that's really a lot.
That was really a lot. Okay, but your really first big hit was Everything Is Beautiful. And I remember that song because when I moved to Florida in 70, 71, I heard that song a lot on the radio. They played it quite a bit. So that was really your kind of like your is that the kind of the song? Is that the song that puts you kind of on the map, so to speak?
I don't know. I don't make maps. I don't know the people who do, but I've had successful records since 1962.
Uh-huh.
In 1962, I had a big hit called Ahab the Arab, which is now politically incorrect. But I'd like to point out that during Desert Storm, when the U.S. tanks were chasing Saddam across the desert, the intercom in all those tanks was playing Ahab the Arab.
Well, that's cool. Well, now wait a minute. Now you have done quite a few politically, in my opinion, politically correct songs over the years that do touch on politics. Is that kind of like how do those songs work out for you? I mean, what kind of response do you get? I'm just curious.
Well, we've always been divided as far as our opinions on politics as a nation, and maybe that's good. I don't know, but I think politics is very important because it decides how we live. I mean, who we elect to office really dictates what kind of laws we're going to live under, and some of them I don't like at this present time anyway. But I've made political statements on records, and it's a lot of people shy away from that, and maybe I should. I don't know, but I just think it's important to, speak out politically when you can.
No, and I think it's great, and keep doing it, and you would be amazed at how much support you have. So, let's go back to the early days. You're from a little town in Georgia called Clarkdale, correct? Did I pronounce it right? Clarkdale?
Yeah, you're one of the few guys that didn't say Clarksdale, but it is no S, Clarkdale. Right.
Okay. And now I have to say this. My wife's born in Atlanta. She's an Atlanta, Georgia girl. She's a little peach. But she grew up in Florida, but she's still a peach. Anyway, and we've been married 39 years, so she's my little girl. So tell us about Clarkdale and growing up and how you kind of got interested in music. Because you started out, I believe, playing piano. And really, when you think of Georgia, and particularly the South in general, if you North Carolina, South Carolina, most everybody's guitar people, and I play a little guitar too. So, but there are some piano people that came out of there, and you're one of them, right?
Well, yeah, Georgia is really, a lot of piano players come out of Georgia. I won't name them, but my mother, when I was 6 years old, she wanted me to take piano lessons, and I didn't want to. I wanted to go outside and play with the guys, play baseball, but she insisted. So my dad bought an old upright piano, and I started taking piano lessons when I was 6 years old. And I'm kind of now glad that I did, because it turned into a career for me, so to speak.
Well, yeah, and I'd say you did pretty good at it. So, what other things did you do growing up in Georgia back in the days? Now,
the normal things all kids do. Went to school in the summertime, took my shoes off and ran around playing baseball or whatever with the rest of the guys. And as you get older, though, going to high school, you discover girls, and that's a lot of fun. So, I did all the normal things.
Were you ever into cars?
Yeah, I love cars. My first car was a 62 Mercury, and it was great. I had it shaved and lowered, and I had the solenoid door buttons, little button under the car that you kick and the door would open. There were no door handles on the car, but as you know what a solenoid door opener is.
Yeah.
People listening to this show should know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. That was a custom thing back in the day.
Oh, yeah. I love that. Nobody could break in except people who knew where the button was.
Now, what was it? Was it a Mercury Meteor? Was it a bigger Mercury Monterey? Was it a Comet? What kind of Mercury was it?
I don't know. It was a used Mercury.
It was a used Mercury.
It was a two-door. It wasn't a coupe. It wasn't really a flashy car, but it's all I could afford, and I really had a great time with it.
That's cool. Yeah. So there's a couple other guys that you kind of hung out with that are also well-known, successful musicians back in the day. Jerry Reed was one. Tommy Rowe was another guy. And, of course, Joe South.
Yeah, well, we all wrote songs for Bill Lowry, who was in Atlanta. I lived in Atlanta. I moved from Clarkdale when I was 10 down to Albany, Georgia, and then up to Atlanta when I was 17, and met Bill Lowry, who's a music publisher, and started writing songs for him, and met Jerry Reed and Joe South and Tommy Rowe at Bill's. He had a little recording studio there, and we all got together and had a lot of fun in that studio.
Now, did you guys form a band too?
Oh yeah, we had a little band, Jerry Reed and Joe South and me, and a sax player and a drummer, and we'd go out and play all around Atlanta,
Now, what was the first song you wrote? You wrote a song that kind of became somewhat successful, and you were about 17 back in the day?
Yeah, I was 17, and I wrote a song called Silver Bracelet, and it wasn't a hit anywhere but Atlanta.
Now, that was more of a doo-wop type song, wasn't it?
Yeah, maybe. It was a teenage ballad, about a silver bracelet that the boy has her name on the front and his name on the back, that was going around at that time.
When you were in Atlanta, okay, so when you say Lowry was a publisher, so for my listeners and actually my own edification, what is really the difference between a record publisher and a producer?
Well, a publisher owns the songs.
Okay.
He copyrights them and promotes them and gets them cut and, nurses them all through their lifespan. Whereas a producer takes those songs, he may also publish them. I don't know, but he produces the records. He gets in the studio with the artists and the musicians, and they try to make a good record.
Okay, then who handles the distribution of the records and the songs?
Well, the record company. They back in those days there were I don't know, half dozen major record labels, and of course they proliferated quite mightily as the record business got more lucrative. But my first record I made for Capitol, and of course they had a distribution set up, and they distributed the records all across the country and the world for that matter. And RCA Victor was another company, Decca, MGM. There were, Warner Brothers. There were a lot of labels back in those days. Mercury.
Okay. Now, like Mercury was based out of, I think, Chicago, Capitol out of California. So did they have subsidiary locations in the South?
I don't know. At that time, I don't think so. But they had guys working, the label promotion guys. For instance, I went to work in '62 for Mercury as a record producer and assistant record producer, I should say, under Shelby Singleton. Mm-hmm. Shelby was started out as promotion man for Mercury, and he saw me play a show down in Atlanta one time. He was coming through town with a big bopper promoting Chantilly Lace, which was a hit back in those days. And he saw me on the show that he had booked the bopper on and called me a month or so later and asked me if I want a job. And I said, sure. So I moved to Nashville and worked for Mercury Records for a 3 years.
Now, you also worked for many years as a session musician. Explain to I know, but my listeners, tell our listeners a little bit about what a session musician is and the responsibilities of a session musician.
Well, session musician goes in, plays what the artist tries to play what the artist wants to hear. And you're usually playing with the same guys over and over. So you get to know each other and you get to know how to blend together very well. And it's a lot of fun. I moved to Nashville '62, met a lot of session guys, played on a lot of sessions, and made my living playing on record sessions at first because well, I asked Shelby, I said, I'm going to be assistant A&R, right? He said, yeah. I said, what does that pay? He said, $50 a week. I said, Shelby, I can't live on $50 a week. And he said, oh, yeah, and you can play on all the sessions. So I said, great, I'll take it.
Now, if you're as a session musician, I know these were the early days. Now, I've interviewed a lot of people that were basically artists like yourself, and they started out, and most of the time it was rock and roll guys, and they were always getting pretty much used and abused by, managers, producers, and people like that. And I'm not so sure if that's something that just kind of took place overseas or out west, but it doesn't sound like it really happened a lot in the South. Was it a different culture back then, and people just had more respect for musicians and just the way the industry worked?
I don't know. I didn't hear the story about guys being used and abused, but you probably know more about that than me. But we had a great time playing sessions and playing for whatever needed playing,
Speaking of instruments now, how many, besides the piano, what else do you play?
That's mainly it. I used to play a little trumpet and a little clarinet, a few horns, but I never got proficient on those instruments. When synthesizers came out, I could make all those sounds with a keyboard. So I've stuck to the keyboard all these years.
Writing songs. Now, you've written a number of songs. Have you written, do you write primarily for yourself, or have you written for a lot of other artists as well?
Well, I write primarily for me, but other artists have recorded some of my songs. I wrote the theme song for the Cannonball Run, that movie, Burt Reynolds movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I was kind of proud of that because it's a pretty neat song, but it starts the movie off in the beginning. I just write whatever somebody wants me to.
So let's use that movie as an example. So, in order for you to come up with the music, the theme for that, what's the first step? They come up to you and say, Mr. Stevens, we'd like you to write a score for a movie. This is what the movie's about. Come up with something, or do they give you any kind of hints?
Yeah, Burt Reynolds was sort of a friend of mine. He was a big friend of Jerry Reed. Of course, Jerry being my friend, I got to meet him through Jerry. And he came up one day and said, here's a bunch of money. Make me a theme song for the Cannonball Run movie, and here's some footage. You can see what the movie's all about. And I said, okay. And so I took the money and watched the movie and got in the studio and made the recording.
Interesting. Now, did that song, like a lot of movie, I'm trying to think what's the word I'm looking for here. A lot of movie songs, theme songs, they kind of make it to, mainstream radio. Did that, and it was all an instrumental, correct? So did that make it to mainstream radio at all?
Well, it wasn't all instrumental. It was a vocal.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, and there's also an instrumental, but it didn't make it to mainstream radio because, well, there's a lot of reasons. It should have, but it was sabotaged by the movie producer. He didn't turn it up enough. You couldn't hear it well enough in the movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was kind of teed off because he had a song he wanted to be the theme for the movie, and Burt overruled him and said, no, this is the one. And so he kind of buried it in the mix, so to speak.
Okay. I got a text here from someone, one of my listeners. Were you in the movie Concrete Jungle?
Concrete Jungle.
Does that ring a bell?
No. Yeah, it does, but I'm not sure. I don't think it was. What was that movie about?
I don't know. I just, every once in a while we get a text because we have a lot of listeners, and of course I keep my phone on my counter thing here and or the table here, and I get texts all the time. So some people say, "Hey, can you ask them this, ask them that?" So was just but interesting. So, by the way, since we're on the subject of that, have you acted? Have you participated in any movies?
Yeah, I made a movie once. I think it was '92. It was I had an idea for a movie concept where you cut 10 songs like in an album, and you string them out with a storyline, and you're making, instead of 10 videos, you're making a movie out of 10 videos. But you script them so that they fit together and it makes a story, and I cut a movie called Get Serious back in '92.
What was the theme?
Well, I was the star and known for comedy recordings, and a new record company president wanted me to get serious, and so it's all about fish out of water getting serious with when he had no business doing that.
Okay. You're working on something right now. Something because you're still writing, you're still doing music, and you're still
sure
producing. So the question I want to ask is the word arranging comes in. So explain to me. I know what producing is now, or and a little bit about publishing. But what does arranging mean? Is that basically kind of coordinating all the instruments together and, and dubbing over? And so is that kind of what arranging?
Arranging is writing out the parts.
Oh, writing out the parts.
Yeah, you write a score, and it's mainly for recording in the country and pop music field. It's mainly for the instruments that don't play by ear very well, such as a string section or a horn section. So you have to have an arranger to write out all the parts for the strings and horns. And usually you can just give the rhythm players a chord sheet and play them a demo, and they'll know what to play. But sometimes you have to write out guitar licks that you want to, in a certain spot here or there. And, it's a lot of fun.
Okay. When you, as a, let's just say a well-established performer, is it hard for someone, and I'm going to use Glenn Campbell example and yourself. So like Glenn was a sessions musician in California for a while. I don't know if he was in Nashville or not, but so is it hard for someone that's been a session musician, then goes to, basically being a headliner, and then do you still as a headliner sit in and do sessions just for like, the good old days type thing, and because you enjoy doing it?
You do it maybe at first a little bit, but after, if you have a lot of success, you don't have time to do that.
Okay.
And, Glenn was a great session guy. And then when he made it big, he didn't have time to play sessions. I'm sure he played on his own sessions, and he might have done some sessions as favors for friends, but he was on the road and doing that television show most of the time.
Speaking of which, you had a television show, around 1970, correct? 71, somewhere in that period?
Yeah, I did the Andy Williams Summer Show on NBC in 1970.
And how long did that last?
Well, it was one summer. It was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so who were some of the guests that were on the show with you?
Well, let's see. The main people were Steve Martin, Mama Cass, Lulu.
Really?
And we'd have all kinds of folks show up and perform. It was a lot of fun. We shot it in Toronto.
Canada?
Yeah.
Really? That's interesting. Canada. Let me guess, because it was less expensive up there, maybe?
That's it.
No unions? No unions up there?
Oh, I'm sure they had unions, but I wasn't concerned with that. I didn't pick the spot, but the producers could save a lot of money, and so they went up there and shot it, and it turned out great. They had a great facility. Interesting.
I have a text here. It says, did you ever work with Elvis?
I played on a session for Elvis one time, but I never did a show with him.
But you met him before, right?
I met him, yeah.
Okay. Another one is Jim Burton. I guess he used to work with James Burton. He played with Elvis too, right? He wasn't his mate.
I know James Burton, great guitar player. He used to play with Ricky Nelson and a bunch of folks.
Okay.
He's one of the best rock and roll guitar players alive.
As far as music that you're doing today, what are you working on? What's your latest project?
Well, I'm working on an album of new songs that are just a little bit different. And I don't know. I've built a showroom in Nashville called the Cabaret, and I'm working there a lot. It's a showroom that holds 700 people, and we have a beautiful room, and it's sound and lights are second to none, and it's a lot of fun to work there. And it takes me off the road. I don't want to travel anymore, so I can go there and work and still we have a 19-piece orchestra there, so it's really a lot of fun.
Well, I was listening to one of the interviews, and you were talking about how you kind of modeled it after some of the theaters. I think it was the Desert Inn in Las Vegas, because you used to perform out there, and what you liked, and you incorporated that in your in the cabaret, as in Ray Stevens. You have this like little walkout platform, or a platform out there where you sit, where you can actually kind of, you're basically like in the audience almost.
Well, it's it's an extension of the main stage. It's another stage that's 6 inches lower.
Uh-huh.
And it goes out, I don't know, 15 feet and across 20 feet. And it's, you can put a little piano, little grand piano out there on it. And a lot of people can come out and from the orchestra and have a presence on the front stage there. And it makes the show a little more interesting, I think.
Okay. And now, how often do you perform there?
Right now I'm doing a couple of nights a week.
Okay. So is your cabaret, is it available to, do you have other entertainers that come in there and perform as well, or is it just you?
Well, sometimes other entertainers come in and perform. We were relatively new when COVID hit.
Uh-huh.
Then we had to close down for a couple of years because of COVID. Nobody wanted to come out and risk getting sick, and I don't blame them. But we finally got back open, and of course, COVID's still around, but people are not as afraid as they used to be in the beginning. So, that showroom can be used for a lot of different events.
Okay. Your comedy songs, and you're pretty much, it seems like the last couple of decades, when you Google Ray Stevens and you go to YouTube and you listen to your songs, a lot of them are comedy oriented. Is that the comedy oriented type songs? Are those kind of like, and it sounds like they're kind of like real life experience. So we played the one with Dudley Do Right at the beginning of the opening of the show, because I got a big kick out of that, the Mustang in the car and that. And so is that kind of like, does that come very natural to you, writing those type of songs and they're in comedy form?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't, I haven't thought about it, but I write all kinds of songs, and comedy seems to come easy. Yeah.
Did you ever do stand-up comedy?
Sure. I do that in the show.
Oh, you do that in the show? Okay. And then you follow up with a song, obviously.
Sure. Yeah, a lot of singing and talking,
Are there some artists out there? Did you like to generally perform by yourself, or do you ever have the urge, the inclination to perform with anybody in particular? Is there somebody out there that you'd like to perform with?
Well, I've performed with a lot of people. It's a lot of fun sometimes to sing duets. I have a TV show that I produce for. Right now, it's on PBS.
Uh-huh.
And it's called Ray Stevens Cabaret Nashville. And we have guests. We have one guest a week it's a 30-minute music show, and we have one guest a week. And so I get to perform with the guest every week. So it's afforded me the opportunity to sing with other artists.
Could you name a few of the artists that you've worked with?
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Oh gosh, my mind's a blank.
All right, I'll tell you what. I'm going to say, back in the day, let's go back to the 60s, might even been the 50s, but you actually worked with Dolly Parton at one point, didn't you?
I produced Dolly's first records.
Really?
Yeah, we didn't get a hit, but we had a lot of fun, and they were good records. I think Dolly was more country than I realized. I cut records with her that sounded like they came out of Motown. And she could cut it, but the record company wanted her to sing country, and so they didn't sell it. But they're still great records. You can look them up on YouTube or someplace, I guess.
Are there any other artists that you worked with back in the day that were basically, let's just use the word, fledgling, beginner, neophyte artists such as Dolly that you worked with that later became very successful?
I worked with a lot of them, but I can't remember. The TV show, some of the guests were Mickey Dolenz, one of the monkeys was on.
Mickey Dolenz, really?
Yeah, and we had a lot of fun. And who else was on? Gosh, Mo Bandy was on. My memory is not what it used to be.
Oh, that's okay. Don't feel bad. I'm 65. I got that problem too. So I could. It happens. Let me ask you this. So, what does Ray Stevens do for R&R, for rest and relaxation? I mean, what's like if you had besides music, besides your cabaret, and all the other stuff? What do you do like in your spare time when you have some?
I like to build things. I remodel houses, build houses.
Oh, really?
I built the cabaret because I wanted to build a showroom.
Uh-huh.
And, that took a couple of years, but it was a lot of fun.
Well, now I was listening to one interview. You were buddies with Chet Atkins, and you guys used to buy and rehab houses back in the day, right?
Well, Chet and I bought them. I rehabbed them.
Oh, okay.
Chet didn't want to do that, but yeah, we owned a lot of houses down on Music Road.
Okay. So I'm going to take it's a fair guess then, a fair assumption to say that you kind of have carpentry skills a little bit, right?
No, I hire people to do that. I just have ideas of what I want the thing to look like and tell them what I want, and they do it. You know, I'm not a carpenter.
Okay. Well, now who did that song? Was that Leon Russell, If I Were a Carpenter? No, or somebody else did that one way back when. But he did a good version of it, a southern kind of a country version of it. Anyway, well, hey, Ray, we are up against the clock. And if people want to find out more about you and visit the cabaret, how do they go about doing it?
Well, you can dial us up on the internet. It's RayStevensCabaret.com.
Well, that sounds good. And then when can we expect one of your latest recordings to come out and hit the airwaves?
Well, very soon. I caught some kind of virus, and it took me out for about a month. But I'm coming back now, and I'm going to go in the studio and finish all these things that I've started, and we should have a record out, maybe in about a month.
Okay. Hey, do you ever go to NAM in Nashville?
What is NAM? National Association of
Music Merchants.
National Association of Music Merchants, right. All right. Anyway, yeah, it's right downtown at the convention center. We were up there a couple of years ago, but I'll tell you what, the next time I'm in Nashville, I'm going to definitely come by and look you up. Maybe come check out the cabaret.
Well, I wish you would. Love to see you.
I will do that. Ray, I want to thank you very, very, very much wholeheartedly for coming on the show this evening. It was a true pleasure. It was a delight. You were just one of the guys I listened to when I grew up. So all the best. Hope you feel well, and look forward to meeting you in person sometime.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you. Hey, I want to thank my very special guest, my new best friend, Ray Stevens, for hanging out with us here at Nostalgic Radio and Cars. Don't forget to check us out every Tuesday between 7 and 8 p.m. on the Tan Talk Radio Network, right here in downtown Clearwater. Oh, yeah. Don't forget to follow us. Bobby, why don't you give them that social media
all
stuff?
That stuff, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, whatever I can get to work.
Yeah, the interweb thing or whatever it is. Okay, but hey, don't forget, tell your friends to get out there and drive your cars. I want to see some of the car shows. Monterey Collector Car Week is coming up in a couple of months. No, a couple of months. Oh, geez, month and a half, 90 some odd days away. So we'll see some of you guys out there in California. In the meantime, everybody stay safe, drive carefully, and love your family.
Break on through to the other side. Break on through to the other side. Break on through, break on through, break on through, break on through.
WTAN, Clearwater.
FM 106.1.
WDCF, Dade City.
FM 102.3.
WZHR, Zephyrhills.
FM 104.3.
Listen.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Liberty Mutual Insurance.
I'm Jennifer Kuiper in Chicago. It's an edited video, but a warning. The audio that is, contains gunfire inside of Robb Elementary School.